Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today back working on the metal planer restoration and trying to get a motor mount in here so that we can get our motor to power this whole thing. Now, this machine originally was built in the late 1800s. It would have been line shaft powered, which means that there would have been some sort of power source for the entire shop. Likely this would have been a steam engine. It could have been a water wheel on a big mill or something like that that rotated a line shaft that ran the entire length of the shop, and then belts went to individual machines. So you basically had one power source that powered everything. Now in today's world, that's not very easy to kind of work with anymore, and we've pretty much gone to putting individual motors on individual machines as a way to get things done. Yes, I could have come in here and installed a line shaft in my shop, put a motor to power the line shaft, and it'd have been cool, but when you do that, you pretty much are making a commitment that you're pretty much going to leave that machine sitting right where it is. Once you get it set up, you just don't want to move it around. And I really wanted this machine to be self-contained so that if for some reason I did want to move it down the road, I wouldn't have to move the line shafting and everything else to go along with it. So it's going to get a motor, and that motor will then power a counter shaft, which is up here above, that will then go around and belt down to the machine to power it. Still going to be belt powered, flat belt powered like an old machine, but we'll be having a machine or a motor on the machine to power it. Now my game plan is that we're going to mount a motor in between these uprights. It's out of frame right now, but above this we have the counter shaft with the pulleys on it, and basically we'll just have a belt come down right here that goes onto the motor that will drive everything. And I've come in here and I've done a lot of measuring, I've done a lot of figuring, trying to figure out exactly the best way to do this. I think I've got room for everything where I can fit the motor up underneath these pieces here, mount it up high enough so that I still have the clearance under the planer for when we have a tall part. I've kind of figured if we raise the crosshead up all the way, how far down is that going to be anyway? And we've got room to do all this. So that's, again, the game plan. Now, my original plan was I was going to use these brackets to kind of hold the motor mount, but after doing some measuring and some figuring, I've determined that my mounts for the motor need to be up forward. So I've kind of got a piece of angle iron just clamped in here with a set of vice grip clamps right now. We're going to mount two pieces of angle iron on either side, and then off of this we'll have some crossbars that go across, and then on those crossbars we will mount this plate here. And this plate here is basically my motor mount. My motor will fit right onto this. This is adjustable. There's some bolts up underneath here where you can move that motor up and down, which can be used to tighten up belts and get everything good and set up. So that is the game plan. This is the motor mount that was on the motor that I'm using, which incidentally is going to be an old motor. I'll show you that probably, I don't know if it'll be in this video or a later video, but this motor that I'm using is probably from the 1920s. I actually got it out of a mill up in New York, upstate New York, many years ago when I rescued a machine up there. And there's some dates and stuff that we were determined it was installed in the mid-1920s to actually power a flat belt type system. It actually was powering a single saw up there. But that is my game plan. This is the original mounting plate that was on that motor when I got it. So this is probably from that same era. A little bit newer than the planer, but still, I think, fairly close to being historically accurate. That's the game plan. Let's get in here and start doing some fabrication and get these brackets mounted and get our motor mount mounted and maybe even get our motor up in there in this video. So these are my two angle brackets that we're going to be mounting in there, and I do want to go ahead and get the holes drilled in the front of this that those crossbars will go to. So if you remember, these are going to be separated. There'll be a bar that goes across this, and then our plate will then mount to those crossbars. Now, I'm going to come in about 1 inch from the top. I've already laid out the first ones here. And while this is a 2-inch piece across. It's about 1.5 inches, you know, until I get into that little corner down there on the bottom on the inside. So I just kind of centered it up. I went 3/4 in on each side. That way we can get a bolt through here with a washer, and all will be good there. Next up, I need to put the marks down below, and let's first off see how far apart these holes are. 12.5 inches. So again, we'll just come in here. I'm just going to use a rule here, tape measure. We'll measure at 12.5 inches. Right there. Same thing for this one. 12.5. And then come in 3/4 inch. Right there. And right there. Okay. Center punch, and we'll get us a place to drill these holes out. Probably use 1/2 inch bolts to bolt all this together. And we'll go to the drill and drill those out. Over the radial drill now, we're going to go ahead and get these holes knocked out. So we're going to start with a 3/8 inch hole. I'm going to end up, I said 1/2 inch a while ago, I decided to go to 5/8, which is the same diameter of the holes that's made to go into the plate that we're going to mount on there. I just figured we'd go with the same thing. We'll start by just getting lined up on that center drill. And let it power drill through. That was easy. Go ahead and swap this drill bit out. I'm just going to go ahead and go to the final size right here. This is a 5/8 inch drill. And on 5/8, looks like we need to be about 500 RPMs. Let me slow that down a little bit. Here we go. And we'll engage our down feed. There we go. I'm going to do that for all 4 of those holes we just put in there. All right, we put our power feed back on. There we go. There we are. So up next, I need to make holes for where I'm going to mount the bracket into the arms of the planer itself. We'll drill and tap holes in the planer, and I've already got them lined out. I've already gone over to my machine and kind of figured out where they needed to be, and I'm just making them symmetrical here from one part to the other. And we'll drill those out to 5/8 as well. So I've got my holes all drilled in these. By getting my crossbars, we'll come across these two. We're going to drill and tap holes into the casting here to mount this plate to. Now, one of the challenges I had was getting these where they were at the same height, to get them aligned from one another. And to get around that, what I did is I just made a little quick fixture here. This is just a little piece of angle iron with a hole drilled in it. I got a bolt coming out that sits down on this top shelf. And when I have that sitting there and clamp it in place, these holes should be at least parallel to this cross piece, which should be parallel to the machine. So we've got our part positioned. I've just got, again, a clamp holding it in place there. Next, I've got a transfer punch. This transfer punch is exactly 5/8 of an inch in diameter. It fits right up in these holes that we drilled. And we're going to come in here and put a center punch hole where we need to drill and tap these to line up, and I'm going to have to be a little bit of a contortionist to get in here and do this. All right, let's take our clamp out, take our part out, and I should have 2 good center punches. And now I'm going to get in here with my hand drill and drill those out, get them tapped. Well, guys, I'm going to try to get a shot of this. There's just not enough room for me and the camera and everything else in here, but we're going to do our best. So we're going to start right here. I've got a hole that needs to go all the way through there. It's going to be drilled and tapped out to 5/8 11. I'm just going to start with a smaller diameter, and then we'll go up to, what is it, 17, 30 seconds, I think, is the drill size for the tapped hole. Breaking through the back side back there. There we go. And we'll come down here, catch our second hole. All right. Now we'll swap drill bits. Slow that RPM down just 1 notch. This is a 3-speed drill that I've got. And that was easy. So I'm going to go down lower speed. Ow. Keep from breaking my hand here. My buddy Andrew Alexander recently broke his hand with a drill, doing something very similar to this. So there we go. All right, we'll tap those next. I'm gonna go ahead and get the other side drilled out too, and then we'll come back and tap them. And I think we're just gonna try power tapping these with the hand drill. I got a 5/8 11 drill bit in there, or tap rather. Piece of cake. Let's do the same thing up top. All right, we got our brackets mounted in here. These are just bolted on directly into those tapped holes that we put in, and that should give us the spacing and everything else to go ahead and make our crossbars next. So I'm gonna get some measurements on those and get those laid out, get them put in there. Moving forward here. I've got my crossbars here cut to length. We need to drill the 4 holes to put the bolts in there with. And I laid the first one out, made sure I had the right offset from the end. The bolt holes were 27 inches apart, and really found this long starret rule to really come in handy. This is like a machinist rule, like the little small 6-inch ones, but this one's 36 inches long. And for making good precision measurements over a long distance, instead of using a tape measure, I grabbed this and was able to check that measurement first off on the machine and then lay it out over here. And ironically, I measured it with a tape measure first, and I measured it with this one, but because of the end of this tape measure, really not being able to hook it on something, I was able to get about a 1/16 of an inch more accurate measurement with this rule than I was the tape. So anyway, this has been a nice little investment I made for the shop. Nice long rule. They make these up to quite long. I think about 8 feet long you can get these, and I might need to get a couple other longer ones for other jobs coming up. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that real quick. I'll go get these drilled out and see if we can get them put on there. Also going to cut some slots in here to mount the plate on, where I can fine tune adjust it once I get it in there. So instead of having direct holes, we'll have some slots. And that just, like I say, give me some adjustment to get it exactly where it needs to be once we get up there. Let's go get those holes drilled and check those out. Okay guys, we have our crossbars mounted in here. Everything seems to be working good. I've also, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I put marks on here where the holes need to be for the plate that's going to mount up on there. And like I think I mentioned a while ago, we're actually going to put some slots in here, so I have some adjustment left to right to fine tune exactly where it needs to be. I think I have measured it pretty good, but I know from working with belts that you got to get alignment just right on these things, and being able to move that plate back and forth just a little bit, I think will be a nice little feature to have. So I'll probably make a slot that's got about 1 inch of travel in it, and this should be the center of that, so we'll go a 1/2 inch either side of that line. The way I did these was I measured the top, and then I used a long square to transfer that down to the bottom in case the bottom one's off a little bit from the other, so everything will be square with one another. They should be lined up in that position there. So, all right, next is to drill and mill out those slots for the motor mount plate to mount to. So I went ahead and drilled a 5-inch hole in where these slots are going to go, and that'll give me some clearance for my end mill. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of line this up and drop it down in the hole. So we need to go that way just a touch. That's starting to go. There we go. So that's going to be lined up. I'm going to zero that out on my digital readout. And we'll drop that down through the hole. And I just use the digital readout. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch in either direction to make this slot. So we'll just start in one direction here. And I'm just watching the numbers on my digital readout till I get to 1/2 inch. Or right there at it. It's nothing precision here. It's 100 thousandths. $200. I just do 3/8, 375. I think that's going to give me plenty of room. So that's 300. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 75, 375. And I'm going to go the other direction the same amount. We're at 375 right there. So that should be a good slot to give me about 3/4 of an inch of movement total. And that should be plenty. I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 holes same way, and we'll be done here. All right, moving along here. We got our crossbars mounted there. We got our slots for the motor mount. Next thing I want to do is get up here and just make sure I got good alignment between the motor mount and the crossbars, and just make sure all that's going to work. So let me set it up there and just dry fit it, see how it's going to look. And there she is mounted. Looks like everything's going to match up just fine. So I think next thing I'm going to do is take the motor mount back off, and I'm going to mount it to the motor itself, and then we'll use the gantry crane and come in here and suspend all that up underneath it and hopefully get her set in place. Let's see what we can do. All right, I think we're ready to go up with the motor. I got the gantry crane suspended over this. Got the motor hanging from the hook, and up we go. So we get a bolt in here. Well, there we go. Our motor is mounted, and I think that's going to be fine. It needs to adjust over. I've got it all the way over this way right now. We need to kind of center that pulley up underneath this pulley. I've got adjustment in both pulleys that we can fool with. Probably once we get the belts on, we'll have to really fine tune that, but I think this is going to work. I think this is going to work just fine. I'm happy with how everything looks. So I think this is going to be fine. I've got the clearance I need. We've got the clearance. When we pull the crosshead here all the way up, we'll still have clearance up underneath this, so we're not going to get in the way there. We got plenty of clearance side by side. Actually, we got more clearance than I thought we were going to have side by side. The motor will probably adjust up. It's all the way down right now. I can move it up a good bit just to kind of get it a little bit more out of the way. But I think it's going to be fine. So next steps for me is I'm going to take all this back down and I'm going to paint all this metal, put it back up on here for good, and get this motor remounted. I've still got to do the electrical work, get my motor wired up and get a switch on this thing and all that, so that's still to come. And obviously we got to get our flat belts. I need to figure up the length and widths of belts that I need and get all that stuff in-house so that we can get all that done. But this motor mount and getting this motor on here, this is a big step. This is a really big step. And quite honestly, this is a step I've been dreading doing. I really just haven't been looking forward to doing this, but it wasn't that difficult. It was just time consuming. There was a lot more time involved in this than what you guys saw in the video of just measurements and figuring and so forth like that. But we got it done now. We got the hard work done anyway, and we definitely are making good progress towards getting this machine running. So there you go, one step closer to making that first chip, and this is a major, major step forward. Guys, with that, that's going to be a wrap. As always, like we always say, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up appreciated, as are comments, and hit that bell icon so you get notification when new videos are posted. And with that, again, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.